Hi, I'm Roberta, and today I am speaking with Cindy Ennis. Cindy is a intuitive medium. She is originally from Calgary, but has been living in Newfoundland for the past 4.5 years. And today, Cindy and I are going to chat about what exactly being an intuitive and being a medium is, and what that's all about. So, hi, Cindy.
Hi, Roberta.
Thanks for talking to me today.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm excited about this because, as you,
Yes.
I'm a fortune teller, I'm a card reader, and you are an intuitive medium. So, this is really right up my alley, and I have many, many questions for you.
Okay. And I'll probably have the answers.
Here's hoping, right? Okay.
Exactly.
So, tell me first, Cindy, and you're an intuitive medium. So, what does that mean?
Well, I can uh, see the past, present, future, but I can also talk to people that have passed over. And I can see them, but it's not like how you see me or I see you. It's just, I get images and they give me pictures. So that's how I do that. And I have the senses, the feelings, the seeing, the smelling, and the knowing. So it's all there. It's all in one.
Okay, so something interesting you just said. They give me pictures. Who are they?
Well, when I start to do a reading, I call in my guides. I have 4 guides and I call them in. Now I always ask for protection of the white light when I tune in, just to make sure we're all safe and secure in our little white light here. And um, as we go through the reading, they will bring in people that have passed over, or I'll see them immediately and just kind of float along and let them sit there for a bit before I acknowledge them. They literally stand there and wait. Some of them are patient, some of them aren't so patient. They want to be heard right now. And I just, they give me images like, if you're looking through your camera and you're going through your pictures and, fast forwarding and whatever, that's kind of how I get the pictures. So it's not like it's a full blown person standing there per se. It's just flashes that they give me. And they'll show me things like they'll show me material things that they had here or that they gave somebody. So, so that I can show that I'm talking to who I say I'm talking to.
Right. You're validating. You're
Yes,
proving that you are receiving these messages.
exactly.
Okay, so what would a typical reading with you look like? So imagine someone books a reading and they come in and sit down, and where do you go with that?
So when somebody books a reading, I ask for a first name, and that's it. You call yourself whatever you want, but when you come in here, you have to be honest. And when you come in, I say you leave what you wanted at the door, you get what you need. Because you don't get what you want. And that tends to frustrate people, right? Because, well, that's not what I wanted. No, but it's what you needed that you're going to get. And, they sit down and I hope they're relaxed. If they're not, I'll just yap a little bit because I tend to do that a lot when I'm doing my readings. So I start with health because to me, I got to get rid of the aches and pains and whatever they're giving me right off the bat. And I like to get rid of it.
They're giving you aches and pains.
Yeah, like a lot of times, and I've really noticed a lot lately that when I book a reading, the night before I'll start getting these hurts. I'll just call them hurts. And I'm going, okay, well, I haven't done anything, so I know that doesn't belong to me. So when they come, I go, okay, here's what I've got. Like, for instance, there's back issues. I mean, a lot of people have back issues, but I'll pinpoint where that back is hurting because that's where it's hurting me. So once I validate, then that hurt goes away and we just move forward. I can go to family, friends, co-workers. I go where they tell me there's no agenda. It floats. I just let them tell me what I need to know, and we take it from there.
Wow. Okay, so I want to point out something really interesting about you as well, is that you don't actually use tarot cards, any type of cards. You don't use any tool for these readings. It's just sitting across the table and you're just talking to people.
Yeah, I've never needed the cards or anything else. It's just, trusting in them and them being my guides. So if I tried to use cards, I probably wouldn't be able to do anything because I don't know how to use them.
Okay, so Cindy, have you always had this ability? Is this something you were born with, or did you develop it over time?
When I was really little, I can go back now and I can remember certain things that happened. And I thought, yeah, I did kind of have it back then. But it wasn't something we talked about back then either, right? I mean, that's a lot of years ago. So it wasn't something that was common knowledge or, we were made aware of. But there was things that I knew were going to happen and they would happen. And I'd just go, oh, well, whatever. Go about your life. And when you're a teenager, you don't have time. You're too busy being a teenager. When I got pregnant, that's when it first came out. But it wasn't until my fourth pregnancy that it really went boom and it all came out.
Really? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I got really sick with my fourth pregnancy. I just want to back up a little bit. Sorry. I lost my first one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then I had two daughters and then the son. And when I was pregnant with him, I got very, very ill. Now looking at it, I'm assuming it was gestational diabetes, but there's never been that. This is what it was. But I had a dream one night, and people are going to scoff at this or do what they need, but I'm a believer and I know what I saw. I had a dream that I saw God. Now he stood across the street. I know it was him. No words were spoken. And I jolted awake and I thought, that's it, I'm going to die. And I went back to sleep and he said, no, you're going to be okay. That was the beginning of knowing and, predicting and just going with it. But I didn't want to accept it. So I would get very, very depressed and then I would have a premonition. So one day I just said to them, why is it I have to get so depressed for you to give me something? And they said, it's not us that has to do anything. You aren't accepting. So we can only get you when your guard is totally down and you're in a depressed mode, because then you're not guarded, right? You're just not guarded. So once you accept it, you will be able to do it happy, not depressed. So that's what I did. And from there, it just took off. And it's been, I practiced on my friends and my family, whom, FYI, I don't do anymore.
No?
Unless I get something that, I know, or something that bothers me, then I'll contact them. But I don't like to, because I know them too well and ego can take over.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I love reading strangers, but it is more challenging to read for family and friends because you go in with knowledge, like things that are happening in their lives. So, and then of course too, you care about these people, so you want the best outcome. So yeah, I totally know where you're coming from there. I would rather read strangers, absolutely.
Exactly. I would rather read men personally. I love to read women, but men are a challenge.
Oh, really?
Men aren't as open as we are. They're not as open-minded. They're very, I'll say, scientific, because if they can't see it, they can't figure out how it works, then it can't work. So when you get them in front of you and you're telling them things that, how would I know? I mean, I don't know you, so how would I know? But you're verifying what I'm saying. So, that gets me because I enjoy that part of it. Like you were a skeptic when you walked in, but you're not walking out,
You're a believer when you leave.
right? And I love it. It's just um, we all have it. That's the thing, that we all have it. It's you need to work with it to develop and keep it
It's practice.
very much.
That makes sense. I would like to kind of circle back a little
Yeah.
to your guides because I find this really fascinating. So you said you have 4 guides?
Yeah, I've just actually discovered a new one just maybe 3 weeks ago, actually, that came to me. Um, just out of the blue, he decided to tell me his name. So I've invited him into our group. I have one is Darlene, and I have Hebra, who was the very first one that I was introduced to. Then I have Jejua, and I have Ezekiel. And we all get together and chat. And I might add that they're very polite and they don't interrupt each other. So we don't get confused.
Okay, so Cindy, and they're always with you?
Always.
Always.
4/7.
Wow. Okay.
Always here.
So has any of this ever scared you? Have you had experiences where you felt overwhelmed or frightened by this ability?
Quite a few, but um, before I got pregnant with my first daughter, um, they told me I couldn't have any more kids. Like I couldn't have babies anymore.
You mean the doctors told you?
Yes.
Just wanted to clarify.
So, and they'd done the test and they said, no, your tubes are blocked. You cannot get pregnant anymore. That's it. So I woke up one morning and I turned to look at the side of the bed, and there was a little girl standing there, just looking at us, just standing there looking at us. And I kind of blinked and she was gone. And I thought, well, that's just really strange. It wasn't, it might have been 6 months later, I found out I was pregnant. And when I had her, that was who was beside my bed.
Really?
So that was, I mean, that was really my first thing for myself, because you can't read yourself, you can't do yourself, right? So that was my first, holy, this is real. This stuff is real.
Wow.
So that scared me, but they can still come and scare me. Even after doing it for almost 40 years, I still can get scared when they, come up behind me or do something.
Wow.
Human nature, I guess.
I suppose, right?
Right?
That is so interesting. And so now you just have this knowing. And I guess over time you learn to really trust it. You said you've been doing it 40 years.
Yes.
A
And
lot.
you have to learn to trust it, because if you didn't, you couldn't do it.
Mm, true.
It's learning to let ego step aside so that you can let them in to read. I mean, you use cards, but you really honestly don't need them.
Yeah, you keep telling me that. I don't know. I'd like,
Well, you have guides too, and you just have to, call them, but give them a name. I don't care if you name them Fred, Charlie, George, it doesn't matter, but just give them a name so that you've acknowledged. And, eventually they'll tell you their real names.
right.
That's cards, right? But you don't need the cards. You've read me and you're very good at it.
Thank you.
So I know you can do it. And I know you don't need the cards. You're very intuitive. You don't need it.
I feel like using the cards gives me sort of an out, so that the cards have meaning. So when I lay down a spread and I interpret what the cards mean and I provide that information, I don't know. I think it would be a big leap of faith for me to just trust that I'm going to open my mouth and blurt out information and it would actually apply to that person's life. That's a big step.
That's what, but that's what you do. Whether you're looking at a deck of cards or not, that's what you do. So
Mm,
you're going to convince me you don't need the cards because I know you don't need them.
okay, you're right. And I am not going to argue with you and your gods. So funny story because I do read cards and I do have some clients and I have been to see you and when I first went to your house it was as you described. I sat in the chair and I think one of the first things you said to me was that you started with health, but you wanted to know who has all the headaches. And I had just gotten back from being at my parents' place for the weekend, and my mom was unwell, and she frequently has migraine headaches. And even just right off the top, it was like you knew things, and you knew many other things that you really had no business knowing about me and my life. That's why I was there. And I send a lot of people to you and I pass out your contact information a lot, but I always warn people about you and I say, Cindy's amazing, but she's blunt. She's going to tell it like it is, and you need to brace yourself for that because I do feel like you don't pull any punches when it comes to this. You just out with it.
I don't know how to, I don't know how to be passive. That's not who I am. I am very blunt and brass. And I warn every single person that sits at this table. I don't sugarcoat because I don't know how. And I'm very honest in what I get, I give. That's what we're supposed to do. Right? Whether they like it or they don't, that's not on me or them. It's what they need at this time. So yeah, sometimes I could probably sugarcoat a little bit, but I'm just not good at that.
Takes a lot of energy too, right? So Cindy, you referenced the fact that you do or you can communicate with loved ones who have passed on. Is that something that happens frequently when you do these readings?
I think I've only ever had maybe 3 total in all of the years I've done this that I didn't have somebody come through from the other side willingly. Now, they said, well, so-and-so didn't go, or I didn't get anybody through. And I go, is there somebody in particular you would like to talk to? So, then I go, okay, we can try. But I always say, if nobody comes through, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. It means everything's right on par. They're all great and you're great. It doesn't mean they're not following you and not, with you all the time. It just means that we're okay today. That's the way I like to put it.
That's never a bad thing.
Never. I mean, and I have to say this because I've done a lot of thinking about this. And when my mom passed, had I have not had this ability, I honestly think I would have had a nervous breakdown.
Really?
She was my best friend. And, just knowing that, sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Where my mom was going gave me so much comfort. And she came and, showed us, she literally showed her face to us many, many times after her passing. So to me, that was, wow, I couldn't have asked for anything more, right?
Wow, that's so beautiful. And I think that's why a lot of people go to see card readers, psychics, mediums, intuitives. I think everyone's sort of looking for some reassurance that not only are the people that we love who have passed on, not only are they okay, but that we're going to be okay because that's something we're all going to face. And I think it's that reassurance or that belief that there is something after this. And I think becoming a card reader is it gave me that absolute reassurance. I do not doubt that anymore. And that is something that has completely changed my life and how I perceive this life. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of comfort in that.
Absolutely. When I first started this, like being able to read people, it was a very, very small group that believed and would come. Now it is just exploded. And I'm pleased with that. I'm happy with that. People are starting to realize that there's more after this.
Yeah,
That gives people a lot of comfort.
I agree.
And we all have those gut feelings. It's learning to listen to it.
Absolutely. And that's something I found too when I started talking to people about the fact that I was reading cards and I was predicting the future and things like that. Even the skeptics, even a lot of men had just these crazy stories of things that had happened in their lives. And they would tell me, I've never told anybody this, but, and it's either a story of a ghostly visitation or some crazy deja vu or something like that. But everybody has, I believe, these experiences with the other side or with spirituality or crazy coincidences. And I do think people do get a lot of reassurance that maybe there is a higher power, maybe there is something after this.
Well, I certainly believe there is a whole lot more to the afterlife than what we see here.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad that people are starting to recognize in their own abilities too, because we all have it. It's just learning to, adjust to it and understand what it's about. Um, and I get a lot of people asking that, when they come, could I do it? Yeah, of course you can do it. But you got to be disciplined to meditate, which, by the way, I'm not great at, but I do try. And I find reading, talking to others, it all helps.
Yeah, you're right. The more peaceful that you can be yourself, the easier it is for the inspiration to come through.
Yes.
Cindy, do you find that now with everything going on in the world and it's a little stressful these days, do you find that people are coming to you and more in need of reassurance than ever before?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're in kind of a mixed up time, and I guess we all kind of want to know, are we ever going to get out?
Right.
I mean, it's a legitimate question, and we will. As they say, this too shall pass, and it will. We just have to be patient.
Yeah, I find that's one of the things that people have a hard time when they come to me for a card reading and they want something to happen. And I actually see it in the cards, but it's down the road. And that's the question I get. Well, when is that going to happen?
And I'm glad you said that, because when I do a reading, and people need to understand when they come and sit with you, what is going on around you at that time is what we're going to get. We can see things that are going to happen, but you have that power to change anything. And, people go, well, what month or what year is this going to happen? What my guides always say to me is soon. And I'm going, yeah, but we know what soon means to them. It can mean 50 years down the road. So I try to narrow it with seasons. I try to go, summer, fall, spring, or winter, spring. I try to do it that way just to give me a better idea. But actually predicting times is something that I don't think many of us can do that. And I wouldn't want to say I could ever do that.
No.
It'd be unfair. And, people have high expectations if you're going to be doing that, right?
I find as well, I don't want to be responsible. I don't want to say something's going to happen in 6 months, because I know people leave and they have that time frame in their head, and then 6 months and one day passes and now they're disappointed and it's my fault.
Yes, and they're calling you going, yeah, but this didn't happen. But what led up to this not happening? See, that's the thing that people forget is we all have our own agendas, our own power. We have the power to change anything. So you can walk in my door and this is what's going on, but you can walk out and turn left and it all changes because you've made that turn, right? But people can't live it. That is my biggest thing is, you know what, go home, forget about it. And maybe in a few months, revisit it, rethink about it, or look at your notes and take it from there. But you cannot live it because then you quit living your life.
Exactly.
And force things to happen.
Exactly. And I've said that as well. That when I predict something and someone goes away and it happens, then they become that much more attached or needy for me to tell them what's going to happen next. And that's why I try to tell clients and people, I preach it a lot. It's about
Ouch.
them figuring out their own connection so that they're seeing
Exactly.
signs, and then don't make me the be all end all in your life now because I knew that you were going to get a new job and you did.
Yes. I say to people, I'm not God
Right.
and I don't profess to be. But I try to give you exactly what they're giving me to give you. That's all we can do. And another thing is, there's a lot of people that they'll come and then they phone when they get home and go, could I book for next week? No. I really like people to wait at least 6 months, because then, you've had time for a bit to go on and to happen and whatever, and to think about it. Not, what can you tell somebody every week?
Right. Exactly.
And to be fair, sure, we could say, yes, you can come every week, but I can't do that. So I prefer wait out the 6 months and just see what happens.
So Cindy, if someone wants to book a reading with you, how do they go about doing that? How can we get in touch with you?
They can message me on my Facebook at Cindy Ennis, or they can email me at cvennis@hotmail.com.
Awesome. Cindy, I could absolutely talk to you about this all day, as you know, but we're out of time. But I just want to say thank you so much for having this conversation, and I'm sure I will be talking to you very soon.
Well, thank you for having me, and try doing it without the cards.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Roberta.